Rated Gen Z, where real talks get real. Each episode dives deep into the minds of 18 to 24-year-olds, exploring their dreams, struggles, and perspectives that most people never hear. We're diving into the chaos. Welcome to Rated Gen Z, Taylor.
Yes, happy to be here.
I'm excited because I was on a little bit of a hiatus from this particular podcast because I finished filming a documentary called I Hear You
Awesome.
Gen Z. So I was on the road for 2 weeks filming with two filmmakers in an RV across 13 states.
I love it.
And yeah, so it's been a while. So I'm
Okay,
really excited to kind of jump back into this. And I feel like
definitely.
you're the perfect guest because you do so much that I will let you intro yourself and tell
Yeah,
us what you want us to hear.
happy to be here and see where the conversation goes. A little bit about me. My name is Taylor Thigpen. I'm born and raised in Jacksonville, Florida. Now a student here at the University of Notre Dame, which is located in South Bend, Indiana. So I study global affairs and social entrepreneurship. I'm in my second year here, so really love it. Don't know why I chose a cold place to go from warm, sunny Florida, but that's all right. My background has always been around, cultural development, community development, and I really jumped in on that at an early age. So I was a 4-H'er, and 4-H is the world's largest youth development program. Has about 6.5 million kids in the program. So that kind of got me going in my community of Clay County, Florida, where I was a 4-H'er trying different things from agriculture to horticulture to legislative and community affairs. And so I really recommend that program for young people. When I was 14 years old, that business actually, or being a 4-H'er actually helped me get in the business and entrepreneur mindset, right? So I thought during COVID, when the world shut down, I thought, what can I do? I had so much free time. And, my background in horticulture from 4-H, I thought about starting a houseplant business where I would sell plants and cuttings. So I took the idea and I took $5. That's all I had. I mean, I was 14 years old, growing up in a single parent household.
Okay.
And yeah, and I said, let's give it a shot. So I launched this business with $5, like I said, and it just boosted. So I became an entrepreneur. And I ended up in 4 years, the business grew, serving thousands, tens of thousands of clients across the United States. We shipped plants to all 50 states. I hired young people and old people to support the business growth and ended up launching in 4 different retail locations as well around where I live. And it was such a unique journey for young me. And but it wasn't my end goal, right? My end goal was always to serve others and do good. And last year I
Not
actually
like
got
that
the
wasn't serving
yeah,
others or
well,
doing
it was. It was. And I always
good.
say, being a social entrepreneur is really important, right? So not just looking at profit, but looking about the good you can do.
Yeah.
But in the end, it was doing really well financially. And I got the opportunity to sell it last year. And which was amazing I mean, it was just like mind blowing. So now a new family runs the whole business. So it's really nice to see it going. They're actually out doing a show market this weekend, which is really cool. But I thought, okay, I'm going to college. I'm going far away. So many people were like, Taylor, don't even go to college. Just continue your entrepreneurship journey. But again, my background and I wanted to do this global development, and I knew I needed those academic skills to build that. And as a first generation student here at Notre Dame, didn't know anything about college. I just knew I wanted to go. And when I ran that business, it gave me the opportunity to buy my first car. It actually gave me the opportunity to go to a private school for high school, which was something I really wanted to do. And and so I just did it. I've always been like the worst somebody can say is no. And so I always was just a go-getter. And now, in short, after selling that business, I've now, being a first generation student here at the University of Notre Dame, I've traveled to 6 different continents, 6 as of this summer. And I actually got to bring my dad and my grandma, and it was both of their first time ever leaving the United States. So this entrepreneurship journey, this well-minded, this community development has really launched me to launch a nonprofit, to work with nonprofits, to do grant writing and travel, which has been just amazing experiences, at only 20 years old now. So
Wow.
yeah, I keep busy, but I love it.
I can tell that you're
Yeah.
really passionate about it and you really do care about what you're doing. But it's incredible because as someone that's 50, I hear these things and I have a lot of colleagues and peers that listen to this podcast, and we're all so blown away by some of you, doing so much at such a young age. I mean, did you just always have that drive as a kid? Like, was it your
Right.
parent that were they an entrepreneur too, or was there something there that you kind of maybe saw one of your I don't know, family members do it, or
Yeah,
you just kind
no,
of had it in you?
yeah, no, that's a question I get a lot.
Yeah.
And no, I mean, my dad didn't go to college and he just started working right away. Great man, but he never had that entrepreneur mindset, or he didn't partake in those kind of things. So it's just kind of a passion I developed, and again, I credit that 4-H program a lot because
Hmm.
I think that opened me up to a world of opportunity. And meeting different people with different backgrounds and cultures at a young age really helped. Um, because I wasn't born in an area where it was super diverse.
Yeah.
But I always say, and I tell people too, young people are not the future leaders. They are the leaders today,
Yeah.
and they're making so much change. And I just got elected to serve on the board of trustees for National 4-H Council, and again, that's serving over 6.5 million young people. And so when I meet these young people from around the United States, you see the change they're making, the businesses they're starting, the community that they're changing. I mean, it's incredible, and I think it gives so much hope for our future. But yeah, I just kind of always had that drive, and I thought, I can always ask, I can always try. And while you're young, it is such an important time to try and follow your passions. And if you really believe in what you do, right? If you really feel like you're doing something good, things always work out. They always do.
Yeah. So how did you even discover 4-H? Because for me, I think it's so important to always highlight those organizations that are working with the youth, because there are a lot of people that don't
Right.
even know that these organizations exist. I didn't know
Yeah,
until I started
exactly.
following them when I
Mhm.
saw that you were a part of it. So yeah, how were you introduced to them?
Yeah, so I actually learned about 4-H through my local county fair. So 4-H has a partnership, but it's in every single county of every single state in the entire United
Okay, that's
States.
good
So
to
it's
know.
everywhere. Every kid can get involved, ages 5 through 18. And we partner with land-grant universities as well as National 4-H Council. And I just learned about it, and I joined a local club, which you can find through your local extension office located in your area. And that's how you can get involved. And it's not just agriculture. We have STEM education, we have leadership, we have civic engagement. And so that was really important to me. But there's so many other opportunities as well. So currently I serve as deputy director for an organization called Kids Connect Ukraine, which launched in 2022. And our whole goal is we bring Ukrainian and American youth together to bridge cultures and be sort of a bridge for hope for young people. And the program has now served over 3,000 young people, many across Ukraine, launching what the youth want. So whether that's mental health resources, that's entrepreneurship. We have a huge entrepreneurship program that we just launched. Um, Whether that's cultural connection, where they're doing Zoom calls together, talking about things from war to their pets and their favorite foods, and doing food challenges online, right? So it's all about just giving young people a way to connect. And yeah, they're hard to find out about, but we're also so privileged with social media that we can find out
Mhm.
about these things, asking around in your community and sort of going on, things like LinkedIn, like connecting with people who are doing this type of work. They can easily get you connected with these programs. And the best thing is, so many of them can be free or offer scholarships. So, like our 4-H program, it's roughly only $20 to join for the whole year, and there's scholarships offered to go to everything. So, our mission is being an opportunity for all, right? Same with Kids Connect Ukraine. We don't charge. We give you the opportunity, and if we have funding and you want to make it happen, we work to make it happen. So that's what I'm all about.
And the fact that you go to Notre Dame.
Yeah, Notre Dame. Yeah, Notre Dame's amazing. Yeah,
I mean, it's
I
a
still
great
I still
school.
do school. Don't worry.
Yeah, no, but that's
Yeah.
incredible. That's such a good school. So I'm guessing you've been to Ukraine.
I have not
Oh,
yet
you
because
haven't.
yes,
Okay.
because when I joined the program, the war had really broken out, and right now, like just last night, capital of Ukraine, Kyiv, was bombed extreme, and so I've talked. We employ teachers in Ukraine. I work with the students in Ukraine. We Zoom. I actually had planned to go this December for a program we launched called Venture Camp Ukraine, but unfortunately, the situation is just not there yet for me to go. But I have a plan to go because I always tell people I try to lead through a concept called human-centered approach, where, I'm working with the people on the ground. I actually see it. I'm not just I don't know, as some white man here in the United States telling others in other countries what
Yeah.
they're supposed to be doing. I want to work directly with them to empower them to make what they need best. So it's actually been very challenging for me, having not been to Ukraine, to make these programs happen. But that's why I make sure to Zoom with people in Ukraine. I make sure to talk with both experts and residents living through the war, both young people who join our Zooms from bomb shelters,
Mm-hmm.
literally from bomb
Yeah.
shelters, to but they're so passionate about what we do. So I'm looking forward to my trip one day. It's definitely a
Well,
couple
I'm
years
going to
out
have
though.
to talk to you further about that because I
Yeah.
actually have family. I have ancestors from Ukraine. Like my dad's
Okay.
Russo-Romanian Jew, and obviously,
Gotcha.
like, everything kind of shifted. So Romania, Poland, Russia, you
Mhm.
name it, Ukraine. So I would love to be able to visit that part of the
Oh
world.
yes,
And
definitely.
I mean, and if it has to do with the youth, I'll have to
You have to
uh,
interview some of our
I
youth.
know because I actually volunteer for a nonprofit called Israeli Connect.
Okay.
And, you can say what you will, like just, obviously there's a lot going on and everybody has their opinion, but I strongly believe at the end of the day, when it comes to our youth, it should not matter where you're from, where you live, none of that. And so I actually mentor a high school student every year. This is my fourth year
Nice. I
in
love it.
English. So, and
Gotcha.
she's in Israel. And so we Zoom as well. And I think it's just so powerful to be able to hear perspectives from other youth all over the world. And
Yeah.
it's amazing how you find that you're more similar than you are different.
That's the thing. That's what we try to show people is
Yeah.
that no matter where they're from, these are your brother and sisters in
Mm-hmm.
another place. And the only reason that your life is different is all luck. It's all based on chance. The only reason that I'm not a refugee, that I'm not going through a war, living in a bomb shelter right now, it's all based on luck. And so I should use that privilege I have right now to help those that, may not have those opportunities, whether that's right here in my own community or a community abroad. I
Yeah.
think it's really important and kind of similar to what you said. I think it's really important too, and it shows with the Israeli part was about a last February I went to Rome and I worked with a program that brought Israeli and Palestinian students together to the Vatican to engage in dialogue,
Wow.
and it was the most impactful thing because you would think that this couldn't happen, but at the end of the day, Israeli and Palestinian students could laugh together, could have dinner together, could hug each other.
Yes.
And there are hard conversations because in the end, there are facts.
Yes.
But to engage in this dialogue, that's the future for hope. If we don't have this kind of dialogue, the generations never will be able to build that brotherhood again. And actually, we all got to meet Pope Francis before he
Wow.
passed away and do sort of a prayer of peace and hope, which was really impactful.
That's beautiful. And I love that you said, just kind of like where we're born and I mean, I was thinking about that the other day. I don't know why it came up and I was driving and I was thinking, it's really interesting how so like we're born into a situation that like we
Yeah.
have no control over in the sense
Mhm.
of like once we're like like before we're born, like
Yeah.
we don't know what our circumstances are going to
Mm-mm.
be. And so I was just really feeling incredibly grateful and blessed. And was feeling a lot of gratitude because I am very,
Right.
very privileged. And again, it's like, well, what do you do with it? And I thought, I have to continue to try to make a positive impact and give back and help.
Exactly.
So I love that you're doing the same thing. And I think that there's a lot of people that want to do that, but again, it's like they don't know where to start. So I love that there's these organizations. You said that for
So many.
starting at age 5, you can be a member.
Age 5 years old, you're a clover bud.
That's
Yeah.
so funny. Yeah, so it's so important to know that there are opportunities out there to volunteer, to give back. My daughter just started
Definitely.
volunteering for a refugee camp in
I
Tucson,
love it.
and it's
Yeah.
they harvest. Like I thought this was a really cool concept. Is they go
Uh-huh.
to people's homes and all the trees with fruits that they have that just kind of drop a ton of fruit and they just
Oh,
don't know what to
okay.
do with it, and it's just kind of
Right.
overwhelming. They go and they clean it all up and they take that with them, and then they actually make food out of it, and then they
Mhm.
harvest it there at the camps too with all the refugees. And she and
That's
most of them
awesome.
were from Africa, and she sent me a
Mhm.
video of her dancing with an older gentleman like
Uh,
to their traditional music. And
mhm.
I just, Like it just makes me happy when I
That's what
see
it's
people
about.
giving back, you
Yeah. I
know?
mean, that's what it's about. And while you're young, but even when you're older, I mean, if you have the time, if you have the resources, because giving back doesn't always mean financially.
Yeah.
Everybody
Believe me,
needs a
I
hands
cannot give
in.
back financially right now. Like I am not
Yeah,
making any money. So I'm like, how can I do it? I try to do it in
exactly.
ways
And
that
and
I
a
don't
lot of
have
that's
to. Yeah.
either your time or just connecting with resources. You never know what a partnership can launch, just like this conversation. You never
Yeah.
know what could spark out of it.
Oh,
Sounds like
my wheels are already
you're gonna
turning.
join us in Ukraine. So
Seriously.
yeah, so it's been great opportunities, and opportunities that I never expected in my life. And that's what when I tell people, or when people ask, or they find me on LinkedIn, they're like, "Wow, you're doing so many things." They talk about me coming from a background of privilege, coming from a background of, and it's not. I came from no privilege and really had to get there on my own. Um, and I think it's my whole goal is to show young people that, with hope and with a little bit of, igniting power, that you can make things happen, and you can be a voice, not only a voice for others, but tell others how to achieve their own voice.
Hmm.
That's what's so important, and to empower others. And age doesn't limit you. Finances might,
Yeah.
and I've had a hard time with that, but I've just continued to power through, and I'm always, a great network for young and old people alike, because I'm willing to respond, to give advice, to connect people, and there are other people just like me out there. So it's just about building those networks.
Yeah, and you mentioned hope, and I think that's another thing that I try to tell a lot of the older generations that you guys have so much hope. Who are we to squash that? The
Mhm.
hope is everything. So in order to be able to continue to move forward, especially in, such difficult times, it's that hope. And so
Right.
for me, it's so important when I talk to people, like let them have the hope. Like don't take it away. Like it's really
Right.
important that because that if it's hope, faith, there's so many things that we have to keep alive. Because yeah, again, that keeps us going and keeps us fighting,
Exactly.
for good. So obviously you mentioned that you were doing a lot of different things. So what else would you love to kind of share with the audience about what you do, or maybe some of your other passions?
Yeah, I mean, there's so many things, and so, there's a lot I could focus on. I think it's just starting on, it starts on finding your own passion, right? And so
Mhm.
for me, that was like food waste and food insecurity. Like when I was really young, I saw food insecure people. And at the same time, it was so ironic because I saw so much food being wasted.
I know.
So that's what kind of got me going when I made that connection in my young brain. And I said, okay, so how can I address that? Right. And so in sixth grade, I started this concept called the food share table. And it's so simple, where I thought kids could take leftover foods that's still sanitary, that's still wrapped, leave it
Mhm.
at the table, and other students could take it home at the end of the day instead of throwing it away. Very
Oh,
simple
you just
concept.
leave it like at the cafeteria
Yeah,
table and
exactly.
and you just,
And
okay.
and we could, like, milks, you could have a refrigerator to put them in to keep it cool. But it ended up being, oh my goodness, there were so many laws, there were so many rules around
I
this. I'm
know.
just like,
So much red tape when
yeah.
it comes to food.
But then I said, okay, well, I'm not going to give up there, right? That's my whole, you got to keep going. So, there's still this problem. So I said, all right, so what can I do? So I ended up, looking at grants. I found out what grants were. And I wrote my first grant for $1,000 in sixth grade to help start this program in one school, where we bought a refrigerator and we bought a little table, a little sign. And the program ended up being successful and getting recognition from other schools. So fast forward, I ended up, when I was living in Florida at the time, talking with the Florida Senate. So I drove all the way to Tallahassee, to say, hey, this is a problem. There's such easy ways we can fix this. Let's see what we can do. And that project sort of has expanded and grown, and people in other counties and states have tailored it to their own needs or started similar programs. Which is really cool, I think. And so, not all of not everyone knows who I am, but people are doing other things, and have similar ideas, which I think is awesome. Because again, it's not about getting credit, it's about contributing to that goal. So right now, like every year, the amount of food waste is equal to about every single person throwing away 365 apples. So every person in the United States just taking 365 apples, throwing them
And
in the
just throwing
garbage.
it in the garbage.
That's how much pounds of food are wasted. And it
Ah, so
contributes, it's
frustrating.
ridiculous. And at the same time, we walk outside and we see people hungry on our streets. So, so that really got me interested. I'm like, okay. And then I started learning more about grants. So I became a grant writer because that was really good at it
Which I'm
somehow.
gonna have to talk to you about
I
that
was
too.
really good at it. And I thought everybody needs finances to run a nonprofit because a common misconception is nonprofit doesn't mean you can't make a profit. I'm sure you've learned that.
Yes.
You have to make a profit. You have to be able to pay yourself and you have to be able to pay to sustain your organization and the good that you're doing. So I helped nonprofits with grant writing and financial planning. So really got into the inner workings of nonprofits and boards, and I've got to be on boards and do that finances. Um, and so I think that's really cool. And all of that is, I'm still learning and I'm still developing. But again, I've mentioned this now a couple times. All that has shown me the important concept of empowerment. It's not about just doing good and giving someone $10. Like, yes, that might be okay.
Mhm.
There might not be, there's no problem with that. But if you can show someone how to use that empowerment, it's like that saying, if you give a man a fish, he eats for a day. If you teach a man to fish, he eats for life. Well,
Yeah.
there's two things about that. One is exactly correct because you're teaching someone to do something. But there's one problem in it that nobody ever thinks of. And I told this to someone. I said, what if that man doesn't have a lake? What if he doesn't have a fishing pole?
Mm,
What if he's vegetarian and doesn't eat vegetarians? They don't eat fish. Yeah. So what
yeah.
if they don't eat fish? And that goes back to that concept of human-centered design, right? And so yeah, that might be a little dramatic what I'm saying, but it's funny because when I tell that to people, they're like, "Okay, Taylor," but it goes back to that concept of how are we working with these communities to empower and address the root causes of what young people are trying to solve. And young people often say, that, the older generations, they've all screwed us, and they have screwed us in some way. But reflecting on the fact that we've come so far,
Yeah.
poverty rates have decreased, cultural connections have increased, and there's still work that needs to be done. But there's so much work that has been done. And so how can we also build off of that, right? And so that's one thing I always think is important to tell young people. Keep doing what you're doing, but never lose hope. Like you said, never lose hope and don't be afraid to bend some of the rules. If you follow every rule, you can't really get anywhere. You have to be able to get a little, into the conversation and
Yeah.
find the stakeholders and the change makers. And if you can do that as a young person, your career is just going to be so fulfilling and you're going to be so much farther ahead than other people who are just talking about the problem but not actually acting.
Yeah.
And I know my story is a little bit of a unicorn story where, not every young person can go do all these things. Um, but young people can do something. And again, mine was based off my passion with food waste and food insecurity. So what's your passion? Find that passion and take it as far as you can and just never give up on that because then it doesn't feel like work. That's what I say.
Yeah. No, and that's why I do what I do with youth empowerment.
Mhm.
Because again, like if I can be someone there that's a mentor, that's, sharing their stories and has a
Right.
platform for their voices so that people can, better understand what all of you are doing, the empowerment piece is what I'm trying to do. Again,
I
it's
love
like
it.
I'm not trying to just like give a handout. It's more, kind of like, let me come along with me and let
Yeah,
me help you because I know as a 50-year-old, and again, with a lot of my peers, we're still struggling in so many ways because we weren't given a lot of the, information and resources that you guys have access to with
right.
technology and with social
With
media
AI, I mean,
and
with AI,
all of
you
that.
could do so many
Oh my
things.
gosh, I go down rabbit holes with
That's
my
a whole
Claude
nother,
with my
yeah.
Claude AI all the time. I went down a rabbit hole the other
Yeah,
day, like it was crazy, but I was
it's
just like,
amazing though.
it gets me.
It, I people think I'm crazy, but I talk to mine sometimes. I probably am crazy, but it gives me really good advice. And that's what I'm saying. There's no excuse sometimes now because you can find out information, on your hands. And I love what you said too. So when I launched my nonprofit called
Mhm.
Local Hands Global Heart, our whole thing was we're not asking for a hand out, we're asking for a hand in.
Yeah.
That's what it's all about. It's put your hand in, whether that's like I said earlier, financially, whether that's with your time or connecting resources. And that's what it's all about.
Yeah. So, it's important to walk the walk like you're doing and I'm
Mhm.
trying to do as well, like behind the scenes I do a lot with a lot of the young adults that I've already had conversations with. Like for instance, one of them, she was in town to give she was pitching something at
Okay.
a conference,
Uh-huh.
and I'd met her and her mom before, and she's been like she was in my film, and she reached out and said, "Can I stay with you?" Because obviously hotels are expensive, everything, and I love
Definitely.
that I've built that trust with,
I love that. Yeah.
with her, to where she stayed here with me and my
Oh,
mom, and we went
fun.
out to eat, and I drove her to the conference, and her mom was just very grateful. And
Hmm.
that's what I try to do is have these relationships go beyond just, sitting here having a conversation on a podcast.
Exactly. And that's
Yeah.
important too. It's not just, like being at Notre Dame, I guess so it's sort of, they'd say a prestigious university. So we have the people majoring in finance and medical, even in my role with global affairs, we're often trying to build a network. We hear about that, but a network should not be transactional. A network should
Mhm.
be relational and building relationships with people. And you can tell when a relationship is genuine or
Yeah.
when it's just a network. And even in my young age of trying to build my network, but also people building a network with me, you know, I'm going to answer that call for someone who answered that call for me,
Yeah.
for someone who wants to have a conversation more than just someone who just always needs something, or just wants me for some of their use,
Yeah.
and it's a better way to say it. So it's really
And
important.
those networks, let me tell you, I reached out to someone that I worked with years ago in the
Yeah.
restaurant industry, like for a
Uh,
short amount of time. And
mhm.
I'll mention off the podcast, just because it's
Yeah.
still kind of like in its conception stage. But anyways, I reached out to her and she automatically responded, and I haven't spoken to her in like 15 years. And we
Right.
got on a Zoom the other day, and we're already
I
figuring out a
love
way
it.
to collaborate. She was already helping me out because she knew I was like also not trying to just get anything from her, but there was like this genuine, like, oh, I remember you and you
Right.
stood out. And she's like, I remembered you too. And it was just like kind of this really cool thing
Yeah.
where I'm always very cognizant about like, hey, when you meet someone, you always want to treat them with respect and kindness because
Mhm.
you just never know. And, that's how relationships
Yeah.
build. They might not have a purpose in that moment, but it doesn't mean they
Yeah.
might not have a purpose 10, 20 years from now either,
Exactly.
you
So, and
know?
I know you've been interviewing so many, younger,
Yes.
maybe not Gen Z, the new
Some
generation.
Gen
And
Alphas, yeah.
yeah, that's all. So what are they giving you? What do they want? Hope? Do they inspire?
Yeah, they also have hope. I mean, it's I think a little bit different, and again in the sense of like they're even more advanced with technology and with
Mm,
their social media. So I think what I'm seeing is the same thing that I'm seeing with a lot of your generation, is that the ones that are a little bit older, or, starting to age a little bit, they're seeing kind of what social media and technology has done to them in a way
mm,
where they're like changing the way that they kind of move around
okay.
the world, and they're changing the way that they think about like playing outside or by connection and
Yeah.
community. And I think that the Gen Alphas, it's going to be a little bit of the same, where they don't really understand what's happening right now.
Mhm.
And I think your generation was the same way. Like when you guys were first introduced to your smartphones and social
Mhm.
media, it was like, woo, this is amazing. Oh my God, this is great. And I think
Uh-huh.
now that you've utilized it for quite some time, now you're recognizing like, okay, I need to step back. I need to have boundaries. I need to learn to
Mhm.
like have self-control with my phone. I need to
Yeah.
acknowledge how important connection, community are. So I think
Mhm.
with them, it's going to be kind of the
Interesting.
same, but they're still, yeah, I think social media and technology is like with the iPad and everything, and is
Yeah,
kind
I
of
mean,
a little scary,
it is. There's
but yeah,
there's pros and cons, right?
yeah,
So in Florida, they tried to one of the initiatives was to ban minors from using social media. And at
okay,
first it started at 17 and under. And this wasn't going to be somewhere you could just say, hey, I'm 18 plus, check a box. Like you'd have to submit IDs. So a lot of things. This was a really big deal. And then it ended up being 14 and younger. But when it was 17 and younger, I was asked by a tech company to How they knew, I don't know. I guess, part of, my entrepreneurship journey and how I used Facebook and social media a
Yeah.
lot. But in short, I was asked to testify to the Florida Senate about why social media shouldn't be banned. I had a really hard time with this because, like you said,
Oh, they wanted you to
older.
actually defend,
Yeah.
like,
And I was
okay.
in Tallahassee at the time, and I ended up doing it. But when I went, I didn't just say, hey, this is crazy, you're crazy. I said, look, I look at this from a middle ground. Social media has the power to do all of these things, but it also can harm all of these things, in youth development. So how can we find that middle ground, such as, ways to watch mental health, to watch, the rise in suicide from social media, the rise of, looking at ourselves differently. So again, I recognize concern.
Hmm.
But it was so weird, that when I got asked to do that, I'm like, okay, I'm not just gonna gun ho and say social media is the best thing. There
Yeah.
should be no parameters. Because I'm sure major billion-dollar companies would love that because what they're selling us, they're selling our data.
Listen, at the end of the day,
So
it's money.
yeah, it is.
I mean,
So, but we have to watch those things. So I think it's really interesting that you said that, and I definitely think more and more is going to come out. But as AI and stuff's on the rise too, um, how our cognitive thinking, how our problem solving is going to change. Because even me, I've been really successful because I've been really good at solving problems. But now, even me, sometimes I'm like, I'll just ask ChatGPT how to
yeah.
solve the problem, and
The critical
the
thinking
answer
piece of
sounds
it is,
good.
yeah, it's the
Yeah.
critical thinking piece that I think is what everybody's really concerned about. And then
Mhm.
obviously too, our brains, I'm like obsessed with neuroscience too. And I watch a
Okay.
lot of podcasts with
Uh-huh.
neurologists and neuroscientists and experts about, with the brain and psychology and everything. And, we are wired in a way where we want to be a part of a group. And when we see like on social media that, apparently they say that 10% of the loudest like people like this the loudest people are just 10% of the population, but because they're the
Mhm.
loudest, we think that they're the majority. So then
Yeah.
we go ahead and like follow and think that's what everybody else is, thinking.
Uh-huh.
And there's a lot of research about how we just are like ourselves, we just have this idea of like everybody knows what we're thinking and we
Hmm.
can't like, and so
Yeah.
we're like silent because we're scared that like what we say or what our opinions. And so that's, I think, where we have to figure something out where people are able to actually voice like
Definitely.
how they feel truly. Like if you truly listen to your inner voice and what it's saying and what you believe in, like I think things would be differently. It's just again, it's like we kind of
Mhm.
follow what everybody else is saying because we're like
Mhm.
afraid of being left out or the whole FOMO
Definitely.
thing. And
Yeah.
I think that's where this generation we have to figure out a way for them to understand like, hey, guess what? Like you're an individual, you
Yeah.
know?
Yeah. And you can think and you can have hope and come up with really creative ideas on
Yeah.
your own.
Exactly. Yeah,
Yeah.
but I think a lot of your generation, you guys have
Mhm.
siblings that are Gen Alphas, and I have found
Uh-huh.
that a lot of you are actually encouraging your younger siblings to go out and play, to not be on your
Yeah.
phone. Like I find that you guys are almost kind of like helping to parent in a
Hmm.
way, because that's another thing too, is I feel like so many parents need to own up and be accountable for the fact that they are kind of just handing the iPad and the phone to
Hmm.
their kid just to kind of keep them quiet because if they're working or if they're out at a
Right,
restaurant.
right.
I mean, I'm guilty of it too. I'm not going to sit here and say that, like, oh, my kid, don't believe me.
Yeah.
Like I'll be on the phone with my daughter. She's like, all right, I'm going to go doom scroll TikTok now. And she's 21. I can't, it's like, but
Yeah,
I'm
yeah,
just
yeah.
kind of like, oh, geez. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I mean, I'm guilty. I'm even with all these other things, I love to watch good TikToks for an hour or so.
Yeah.
So I'm guilty of it. I get that.
Yeah, and but it's again, it's like, but as a parent, still recognizing like, hey,
Definitely.
that is not the healthiest thing to do. So maybe we need to incorporate different things. But I feel like there's a lot of parents and a lot of people out there doing that as well. You hear a lot of like situations where you're like, oh my gosh, I love this. This is great. Like, so yeah, I think it's like every generation, Taylor. Like when
Exactly.
I was younger, everybody thought like Gen X was, like
Yeah.
causing, our world to go
Mhm.
to crap or whatever. And then the millennials, the avocado toast generation.
Mhm.
So everybody has something to say about every
Exactly.
generation. I think that's just kind of inevitable,
Mhm.
to be
And
honest.
my kids will be mad at me too,
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And
So
then it's just, it's the circle of life.
it is. But we gotta try. We gotta try.
Yeah. So I would love to hear what, like, do you have an end goal with all of this? Is there something like the
Yeah.
pinnacle of like what it is that you want to achieve?
No, yeah, it's a good question. I think for me, I just try to let day by day play out. So I try not to think too far in the future. I just let things work out. But, to answer the question and not just give a basic, well, we'll see. I've always wanted to do like that global development. So that might be joining the Foreign Service with the State
Okay.
Department. That might be, I've been really good at philanthropy and nonprofit work. So continuing my role in nonprofit development because since a young age, I've always been an entrepreneur and doing my own work. And one thing bad about the government is they work really slow, and I'm a really quick worker. I want to get things done, and
The same way I'm like, come on, let's
yeah,
go, hurry
we're
up.
ready to get things done. So that has kind of changed my goal. But I'll say, you know, as long as I can just be someone who can spread a bit of love, do a bit of good, and I want to live in DC, so I need to at least be a little bit financially well as well. It's always important to put yourself. You gotta make it yourself too. So,
Yeah.
but yeah, we'll see where I end up. I got a
Well,
little time, so
yeah, you do. Is this your second, third,
yeah.
what
So
year?
sophomore year,
Sophomore year.
yeah. So
Okay.
I'll be graduating May 2028. So I have plenty of
Okay.
time.
Are
So I'm
you
not
planning
stressed.
on going to grad school?
Maybe not right away.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't, it's not really necessary. I mean, it might be necessary one day in my life,
Right.
but for like to start a career in foreign service in the State Department, it's not required.
Oh, it isn't.
So
Okay.
yeah, but eventually, like I always say, college, we could have a whole conversation just on college,
I know.
but yeah, but you don't it'd be nice, sometimes you get the opportunity to work for a little bit and then they'll actually pay for your grad school. Or when you
Okay.
get the opportunity to have a
That's
senior
good.
level position, then I might say, okay, I need to take a year or two off to finish grad school, get a master's. So, but no, I'm not planning to go right away. In
Oh,
short.
okay. Yeah, it's a lot of schooling.
Yeah, I need a little, and I'm ready. I'm already working, so I'm
I
ready to
was gonna
go.
say, you
Yeah,
seem like you've had a lot of, kind of outside
yeah,
experience too, to
mhm,
where you don't need much of it right now because you've had
yeah.
it just
I'm ready
already
to
at such
go.
a young age. I know.
Yeah.
I actually had two, they were 17 years old, so they were on Rock the Boat, but they were seniors and they already started their junk removal business and they were already
Okay.
really successful in Reno, dumpster
Nice.
dudes.
Oh, I love it.
And they already,
Huh.
like with their parents, had come to an agreement that they were just going to skip college and go just continue with their business because that's what they were going to go to
Yeah,
school for was bit, and they already are pretty successful. And
exactly.
I love that their parents were supportive and they're doubling down. Like they've done really well with their marketing. I think they were on the
Yeah,
local news
I love it.
as well. And so, yeah, it's one of those things where I'm like, well, if they already have it figured out, like in the sense
Yeah.
of like what they're passionate about and what
Mhm.
they're, then why not? Like
Not everybody needs college. It's
yeah,
based on your own goals and your own path. And, it might be different if my end goal, didn't require a college degree. Maybe my
yeah.
decision might be a little different. But again, it's about finding what your goal and your passion is and meeting, in the end, you got to meet some requirements. You can't change everything. So,
Yeah. So, but it definitely, I feel like your generation is, kind of being like, hey, you know what? We don't have to be doing everything as traditionally as everybody else has been
mm-mm,
doing it before
mm-mm.
us. You guys are definitely breaking barriers and it's nice because it's actually it's also helping us adults, like I tell
Uh,
people that thanks to your generation and what's happening as a 50-year-old, I'm still relevant. Like I get to do a
yeah,
podcast. I get to do all these things that not many 50-year-olds would have the opportunity to do, but because of all these new opportunities and access to
definitely.
different things, you could have a 90 something year old be a content creator. We've seen that on social
Yeah,
media too.
exactly. And I love it. It's
Yeah, and I
great.
love it. And it gives a
Yeah.
95-year-old like it gives her community, it gives her
Mhm.
purpose to wake up and like, yeah, it might be like the get ready with me videos, but I watch them.
I'm sure I'm stuck watching them.
Yeah, but you know what? There's something about that too
Mhm.
that keeps people relevant at an
Yeah.
older age too. So I think that's good.
Mhm. Yeah. Well, we haven't said screw y'all yet.
Yeah.
Just you've done a lot. Your generation's still done a lot.
Yeah, we're still alive and kicking. Well,
Yeah.
that's the thing too, is with the health and beauty industry and just in general, people are looking younger, they're feeling younger, they're
Yeah.
acting younger. So like 50, they say 50 is the new 30, I'll
Yeah.
take it.
Well, hey, whatever makes you feel good, right?
That's like yesterday. I was getting a bottle of wine at the grocery store, and I always give my ID, and I had my hair up in a bun, and like I had a
Uh,
cap my daughter's sorority sweatshirt on, and no makeup, and I gave him the
uh,
ID. He's like, "Oh, I thought you were going to be way younger," and I'm like, "Thanks."
yeah. Well, but at my age, I'm like, I want to look a little older, you know?
Right? Isn't
So,
that funny?
yeah, that's good though. That's good.
Yeah. Yeah. Hey, like I said, I'll take it, you
Take
know?
what you can get.
Exactly. Well, this is like perfect time to just kind of,
Yeah.
close it out. Is there anything that you want to share or any advice or any last minute
Yeah.
insight?
Well,
Because you've had so many amazing things to say.
definitely. Well, there's just, there's so much to talk about. I really appreciate you having me on, and being able to just give a little voice and insight on my life and my journey. Again, it all sums up to back what I was saying. It's about helping others find their voice, not always trying to be the one to solve every problem, building a network, building a community. But young people are the leaders of today. And I truly believe that, not only as a young person, but through the young people I've seen. Happy for anyone watching to connect with me. I'm on LinkedIn, Instagram, Facebook. My name, Taylor Thigpen. I'm sure it'll be mentioned somewhere.
Yes.
So feel free to reach out. And if I can help in any way, always happy to look. So thanks for having me.
Thank you for coming on.
Yeah, thanks.